Okay, let's talk about 5 things you should never do if you want to be successful in math. Now, this list here is going to seem like common sense, and a lot of you are going to be like, oh, yeah, I've been told that before. But here's the thing, being told something and doing something is completely different. We've all been told to eat healthier and exercise, but how many of us actually eat healthy and exercise on a daily basis? Well, you can answer that question for yourself. But a lot of us don't do the right things for our success, okay, our well-being. And when it comes to math, if you don't do the right things, okay, you're not going to end up with the best grades. So this video here is going to emphasize things that you probably have heard before, but I really, really want you to get you to understand why it's so critical to avoid some of these bad habits. So there's 5 specific things that I'm going to be talking about, and of course, we're going to turn this into a positive video because it's not, hey, don't do these things. We need to be doing the opposite of these things. So we're going to get into all this in just 1 second. But I'm curious. Go ahead and put in the comment section a couple of different things that seem obvious to you, like, hey, don't do this if you want to be successful in math. Put in a couple of your own thoughts because maybe it's not going to be on my list, but I'm pretty sure a lot of you have a lot of good things to say based upon your own math experiences. So we're going to get to all this in just 1 second, but first let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John. I'm the founder of TabletClass Math. I'm also a middle and high school math teacher, and I'm going to leave a link to my math help program in the description of this video. But basically, I have 100 plus different math courses ranging from pre-algebra to pre-calculus and everything else in between. So if you're at the middle school, high school, or even college level in terms of mathematics, that could help you excel in your math course. If you're going to be taking any test that has math on it, so things like the GED, SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT, ASVAB, AccuPlacer, CLEP exam, teacher certification exam, and the course exam, nursing school entrance exam, on and on and on. You get the idea. I can help you prepare and pass those exams. If you homeschool, I have a great homeschool math program that you definitely want to check out. And if you don't have any math notes, don't panic. You can use my math notes. I'm going to leave links to my math notes in the description of this video, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of a hint about what's on my list. Notes is one of these things that are going to be on my list. So I'm going to speak about notes and the importance of them here in a second. But let's get going here. And before we get to my list, the number one thing that you have to have in order to be successful, not just in math, and anything that you are going to challenge yourself with, is your mindset. Okay, you have to have a positive mindset when you study mathematics. So the first thing is you need to be like, hey, I can do this. I can do this, because a lot of you have had bad math experiences in the past. Maybe a math teacher told you, hey, you're not that good in math. It's crazy when I hear some of these stories from adults that are 60, 70, even 80 years old. They literally can remember teachers that told them way back in 1963 or 1952, hey, you're not good in math. And words have so much power that if someone tells you you can't do something, like, you really have this like bad like mental image, all right, of your math ability. Okay, and this is so detrimental to so many students out there. It's one of the very, very unfortunate thing, and no teacher ever, okay, if a teacher tells you you can't do something, I'm just telling you right now, that's a bad teacher. Okay, so yes, there are bad teachers out there, unfortunately, but you have to determine what you're going to believe. Okay, and I'm going to tell you right now that you need to believe that you can do this. Okay, so maybe you're intimidated by a course, let's say like calculus or algebra, because you know somebody told you or you told yourself that you're not smart enough to do this. Okay, you have to stop that. You have to get control of your mind. Okay, stop thinking that you can't do something and start believing that you can. Now your brain is going to be like, yeah, all right, you can tell yourself I can do this, but you're not going to truly start. You're going to have kind of faith here. You're not going to truly start believing this in your gut until what? Until you have a track record, right? So you build a new track record of success. And so you're like, oh, okay, I'm taking some quizzes, taking some tests, and I'm doing pretty good. And guess what? This, instead of just you kind of like trying to, you know, mentally get yourself to actually believe this, as you start doing good, you're gonna be like, you know what? Maybe I'm actually pretty good in math. Okay, and I'm telling you right now, most of you out there, your starting point is you're gonna have to check where you're at. Um, it's that old saying, you know, you need a checkup from the neck up, basically saying, hey, you got to check in. What do you really think about your ability to learn math? Okay. If it's anything less than you can do this, why is that? Who told you that? It's either you told yourself that, or someone, you know, it could be unfortunately a parent or somebody else. You got this idea in your head that you know, are not good at math. Now, here's what ends up happening, and I've seen this too, right? A lot of students say, well, I'm not going to be good at math. I'm just, you know, typically, it's not my subject. So guess what happens? Well, what happens is that you don't really like put a lot of effort into this, okay? You don't really put a lot of effort, and you know, you don't try, okay? So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm bad at math, therefore I'm not going to really try. Therefore, whatever, I know I'm going to get my little C minus, and I'll be happy with that. Okay. So first things first, before I tell you my little list here, this is the most important thing is your mindset. And this is not just with math, it's anything you do in your life. Okay. You got to believe that, um, that you can do something challenging. Okay. Even if you don't have a track record, you just got to have faith, and then you got to work hard and smart to build a new track record. So this kind of belief, you know, really becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And then this is like a virtuous cycle. Okay. You'll be like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. I can do anything. And that is kind of like, you know, the number one secret to being successful in anything is your mindset. Okay, so that is, I wanted to get that out there because this is probably the most important part of this video. Now let's get into these specific things that you don't want to do um, if you want to be successful in math. Okay, so the first is don't ask questions. Okay, don't ask questions. So you're standing there or you're sitting there in your math class, and the teacher's talking about something, and you get like, I don't know what's going on. Okay, they just said something very complex, and I'm kind of getting lost. Okay, well, what should you do? Should you just be quiet and don't ask any questions? No, no, no. Okay, uh, you don't want to. This is what here's my little list here. These are things that you don't want to do. You don't want to ask questions. Okay, don't ask questions if you want to end up getting a poor grade in math. So let's just get rid of this don't here, and let's just focus on what you should be doing, and that is ask questions. Okay, if you don't know what's going on, raise your hand. Okay, or write it down on your notebook. Don't worry about, you know, you can't constantly be asking questions to the teacher, but, you know, feel free, okay, to ask questions. That's what the teacher's job is to answer questions. Now, if you feel like, you know, it's not a good time to ask a question in class for whatever reason, write your question down and then go immediately to your teacher right after class. Okay, be like, hey, I got a question on this, and then you can arrange a time. Come after school, or come during lunch, or email me this, or whatever the case is. But if you have questions, you need to ask them. Okay, and you need to get an answer. Right. So that's the first number one thing. All right, so let's move on to our next thing here, and that is don't correct bad tests or quizzes. Okay, so what am I talking about there? Hey, you know, you get a C minus on a test on solving equations. You're like, okay, I'll just accept this because the next chapter I'm going to try real hard so I can get an A plus, and then I can average out this grade. So this chapter was terrible. I didn't really understand it. So I'm just going to move on to the next thing. That's the worst thing you can do. Okay. So you have to correct bad tests or quizzes. In other words, if you failed something, if you didn't really understand anything, you got to go back to the teacher with a bunch of questions like, hey, look, can you explain this to me again? Because I don't understand this. If you don't understand something in math, it's going to come to haunt you. Math builds upon itself. Okay. But a lot of students will say, all right, I'll just kind of like accept this bad grade for this particular chapter and move on. Okay, it doesn't mean that you're going to 100% maybe get an A in this chapter test if you were, you know, given another test on it. But you have to learn. You have to get you have to improve. And let me just say, I'm kind of stumbling my words here. If you didn't understand something and you got a bad grade, you have to get some better a level of understanding. It could be not, maybe it's not perfect, all right, but maybe like a B or B plus level of understanding. Okay, you just can't leave a bad grade festering there. That's going to come back to haunt you. So if you get a bad test, that's definitely an emergency. But you should, be looking at your quiz grades. If you take a little pop quiz and you don't do well on it, that is like a good signal, to you, be like, hey, you know what? I need to go get this corrected before the chapter test. Again, common sense. So, but here's the thing, though, right? If you do get a bad chapter test and you don't correct that and just move on, well, that's not going to be. It's not going to pay off for you. Believe me, it's going to catch up with you in the end. All right, let's move on to our next thing, and that is don't take great notes. All right. So I always talk about notes. If you've been watching my videos, hopefully you are a subscriber. If you aren't, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and smash that like button while you're at this, by the way. So don't take great math notes. Like, nah, no, I got a photographic memory. I'll take notes here and there. Well, listen, this is a huge mistake, right? You have to take great math notes if you're going to be successful in math. I've been, teaching math for decades, okay? And this is probably the number one correlation I can see because what does it take to take great math notes? Well, this is an indication that you are highly focused, okay? Focus is the name of the game. You got to really, really be focused on what the teacher's saying and write everything down. If your teacher's writing stuff down or presenting information, they're giving you that information so you can get that information. Okay. And how are you going to get that information? By looking and hearing? Well, that's partly, the way you kind of absorb information, but you got to write things down. All right. That's a real super rich way to build your retention. And you need reference in mathematics. There's just too much information coming at you. So take a look at your notes and ask yourself, are these notes great? In other words, could a student who has been absent for a week learn from your notes? Like, okay, here's my notes, and you can see everything that we did. Here's all the examples, and I can actually learn from your notes. That's how good your notes need to be. So work on your notes. This is like magic right here. Okay. All right, let's move on to our next thing here. Don't be neat and don't show all your work. Well, this is very detrimental. Okay, if you're sloppy, and I was very sloppy back in the good old days, I actually had to work diligently, consciously, to break that habit of being sloppy. Okay, so there's a lot of sloppy people out there. I was one of them, but you can be much neater. You don't have to be, like super neat, but be as neat as you possibly can. But don't accept your sloppiness. Be like, this is the way I write, and I can't do anything about it. No, you have to work at becoming neater. Okay, so you have to be as neat as possible. And along with that is you have to show all your work. Now, I could have broken this up into two different lists, but I wanted to kind of put both of these together because if you show all your work and all your work is like, okay, I'm showing all my work, but I can't read your work, and you yourself cannot read your work, then what's the point? Okay, you have to be neat. But if you're neat and you only show a couple steps to the solution, well, that's not helpful either. You have to both be neat and you have to show all the steps to a problem. Okay, so every time you do math, if you're not going to do your math problems, neat with like neatness in mind, or really taking your time with organized plan and showing all your work, then you're better off not even doing any math. Okay, because if you do math in a poor way, all you're doing is reinforcing bad habits. Okay, so you got to be neat and you got to show all your work to be successful in math. All right, let's look at our last one here, and that is don't do all the practice problems. Okay, this kind of comes to like homework. So yeah, don't do your homework. Well, that's a kind of obvious thing. If you don't want to be successful in math, well, then don't do the homework. Okay, but this is even more than that. This is don't do all the practice problems. You have to do all the homework problems. And here is what I've seen with a lot of students. Let's say there's let's say there's 10 practice problems. They'll do the first one, the second one, and they're checking their answers. I got this right. I got this right. They'll do the third one. I got this right. They're like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good to go. I am good to go. No need for me to waste my time and do these other problems over here. okay? Because the teacher was just kind of giving me a bunch of busy work. Listen, I just confirmed to myself that I'm good to go and I know this stuff. Wrong, 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 okay? That is one of the worst things you can do. All right. Typically, when your teacher is giving you homework problems, or if you're doing a worksheet that has well designed practice worksheet, it has a variety of prompts. And generally, the prompts in the beginning are going to be the more basic, and then you get some like middle, medium, and level type prompts. And then over here, you're going to get another variety of problem or like more advanced or like word prompts. Okay, you have to do all the prompts to really build and grow that particular math skill set. Okay, so don't think just because you're doing a few of the practice problems that you've mastered everything. Okay, do all the problems assigned, and if you don't, if you have problems when you're doing this, you're like, okay, I don't understand number 9 and 10. I'm totally lost. Guess what? This turns into a question. Okay, so the next day when you see a teacher, be like, hey, I didn't understand this, I didn't understand that. Can you go over that with me? If you do these things that I'm talking about, okay, you're going to, there's just no way you can fail a math course. Okay, now, does math get, to be so challenging that it becomes very difficult? Well, yeah, I think so. I think that there are some people, okay, out there that are really kind of born to be at that like PhD level of math. Okay, that wasn't my pursuit because I did other things. But in terms of like elementary level math, middle school level math, high school level math, college level math, you can pursue, you can kind of continue to grow. Now, if you want to get a doctorate degree in mathematics, you can do that as well. Okay, you're just going to have to keep building yourself up and building yourself up. But for me, I always was strong in math, and when I was at the university level, I was taking calculus, and that was like easy to me. I mean, it was challenging, but it wasn't. I understood everything. But guess what? For me, calculus was pretty easy. But when I got to my senior year, I was doing master level theoretical mathematics. I was pretty much looking like this. I was like, I'm lost here, and I knew all these things. I was working super hard. Now, why is that? Because at any level, you keep studying the subject long enough, it's going to get so advanced, okay, that that's where we kind of discover our aptitudes or in our pursuits. And I could have continued on with math, but I went on and did other things and kind of stopped with my bachelor's in terms of mathematics. But I do have a master's in educational technology. And I like to learn a lot of different things. I enjoy engineering and physics and science and whatnot. But here's the deal, okay? At the middle school, elementary, middle school, high school level, and even college level math, okay, if you're taking some sort of math that is part of either you getting a high school diploma or getting your degree in college, you can get through it. Okay, it's not nothing that there's no math out there that you can't get through. Some you're going to have to work a lot harder than others, but if you have the right mindset and you follow these good habits, okay, or don't do these things and follow the opposite of them and do things like ask questions, keep up by correcting your bad test and quiz grades, figure out what went wrong and correcting those things, take excellent notes, stay highly focused, be neat, show all your work, do all the practice problems to your best of your ability. Guess what? You're going to be successful. You're going to pass your math classes and better than a grade with a C. You're probably going to be passing with a B plus to an A plus in terms of your grade. So I'm speaking for a lot of experience here with these things, but you have to decide what your approach. Okay, you could be like, yeah, that's whatever. I don't need to do that. Well, then you'll have to kind of see how that your own personal philosophy takes you. But when you're a math teacher like myself, you get to be an observer of thousands and tens of thousands of students for a long, long period of time, and you just kind of come to these certain beliefs of like, hey, this works and this doesn't. Okay, and so, anyways, hopefully. This kind of reinforced some things that you already knew, but if this has inspired you to go out there and kind of like correct your math grades or say, you know what, I'm gonna get through my college degree. I'm going to get through this math class. Or I'm going to take this certification test. I can do this. Well, that was the whole point to this video, is to inspire you to be great at math. So if I inspired you even 1%, go ahead and smash that like button. That definitely will inspire me 100%. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, hopefully you'll consider subscribing. I've been on YouTube for 10 plus years, have over 1,000 plus videos. That's a lot of videos to make, but I make these videos because I'm passionate about teaching math. My goal is to try to teach math in a clear and understandable way. So please take advantage of all the content that I've posted and I will be posting. But my best math help will always be within my Math Help program. Okay, so with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.